Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're diving into, well, the really tricky world of cryptocurrency. It's this space that promised so much, a kind of financial revolution.
But also delivered some spectacular failures, real collapses.
Exactly. And those historical tragedies, thinking about Mt. Gox and more recently FTX, they weren't just about losing money, right? They really damaged public trust.
Deeply. And that's the core question for anyone new, isn't it? Why did these things keep happening, these trust failures? And more importantly, how can you actually build something different, something more robust?
That's precisely our mission for you today. We're going to unpack the, frankly, brutal lessons from those two big ones, Mt. Gox from the early days, the dark ages almost,
Yeah.
and FTX, which felt so modern but collapsed all the same. We want to understand the recurring problems in the centralized system.
And then use those lessons as a kind of lens. We'll look at a really different approach Pi Networks, specifically their decision not to use coin burning.
Right, that's a common tool.
Very common.
Yeah.
So why reject it? It challenges a lot of standard crypto thinking, and we need to dig into the philosophy behind that choice.
Okay, let's do it. If crypto history is full of these governance failures, we need to grasp the root causes first. Where did trust initially just crumble?
You really have to start with Mt. Gox. It's the classic case.
Mt. Gox, Tokyo, 2010. For people who came into crypto later, it's kind of hard to explain just how huge it was.
Oh, totally dominant. At its peak, we're talking over 70% of all Bitcoin transactions globally. It was the gateway,
The unchallenged gateway to this new digital world.
which made its collapse in February 2014 just seismic. And it wasn't just one thing, like a hack, although that was part of it. The sources point to a deep systemic failure, governance, control, all hidden behind this incredible growth.
So tell us about those fatal flaws inside the system. What specifically went wrong?
Well, the reports highlight three main things. First, just weak security. Really weak. They weren't ready for the scale, couldn't handle the cyber attacks properly. Second, and maybe even worse, was the internal mess. Chaotic records, terrible accounting. They literally didn't have a proper handle on their own transactions.
So the people in charge didn't actually know how much money they were supposed to be holding.
Pretty much sums it up. And third, just poor management. The whole structure, the governance, it just didn't evolve as fast as the trading volume exploded.
Classic case of growing too fast without the foundations.
Exactly. Without basic corporate hygiene needed when you're handling billions in customer funds.
And the scale of the loss was just mind-boggling. 850,000 Bitcoin gone. That was hundreds of millions then. Billions today.
Yeah. But the real takeaway, like you said, wasn't just the number.
No.
It was the absolute need for solid governance. Mt. Gox hammered home that crypto, even if decentralized in theory, relies heavily on the centralized places people use it. You need strong security, transparent finances, real accountability.
Otherwise, trust just evaporates instantly.
And the whole industry should have learned that lesson, fundamentally.
Which makes the FTX story even more, well, frustrating. Let's pivot there. FTX was the modern darling, right? SBF, the genius founder. They were supposed to be different. They knew about Mt. Gox.
You'd think so. Yet, when FTX imploded in November 2022, the problems felt disturbingly familiar. It wasn't early, weak tech this time. It was negligence on a massive scale, plus major ethical failures.
The sources point to the financial structure again. Negligent accounting, basically non-existent internal controls, famously using QuickBooks for a multi-billion-dollar operation.
It's almost unbelievable, just waiting for disaster. But what really stands out with FTX is the ethical dimension. The founder's personal choices directly impacting the company's fate, allegedly using customer funds like a personal piggy bank. It wasn't just bad management. It was allegedly something much worse.
And the impact was huge globally. About $8 billion in customer assets wiped out or tied up. It forced this confrontation. A technology alone doesn't solve for human greed or bad ethics.
So if you connect the dots, Mt. Gox to FTX, 8 years apart, huge tech advances.
Yeah.
What's the common thread?
Centralized organizations are fragile.
That fragility of trust, yes. In both cases, they chased speculative growth over solid risk management, over sustainability.
And that information gap. Users had no clue what was happening behind the curtain.
Precisely. Information asymmetry. It enabled all these hidden, risky practices.
So it feels like the real fault line isn't the blockchain itself, but these human institutions built on top. How do you stop that cycle? How do you build something that doesn't incentivize that kind of meltdown?
And that's where Pi Network positions itself. They say they're building against that history, aiming for a big, community-driven ecosystem focused on practicality. Fairness,
Hmm.
not just speculation.
Trying to bake the governance into the model itself, maybe? By letting pioneers mine on phones, they decentralize the distribution from day one.
Right. The idea is value comes from individual contributions, spread out, not concentrated where it can be easily misused.
Okay, so to really get their approach, we need to understand what they don't do, which is coin burning.
Exactly. That's key.
Let's define that clearly. What is coin burning?
So technically, it's when a project deliberately reduces its coin supply. They send coins to a special address, basically a digital black hole where they can never be accessed again, permanently gone.
And why do so many projects do this? What's the point?
Well, the main goal is usually to create scarcity. Fewer coins means, theoretically, each remaining coin is worth more. It puts deflationary pressure on the price.
Drives up the price expectation.
Right. And it can also be a signal, showing the market they're serious about preventing inflation, protecting the value for investors.
So coin burning is fundamentally about scarcity driving value, making the asset a better store of value or SOV for people holding it.
That's generally the primary driver, yes. It's a strategy focused on boosting that speculative value, benefiting existing holders by making the asset scarcer.
Okay, so here's Pi Network saying, nope, we're not doing that. Why reject what seems like a proven method to pump value? Don't you need some scarcity?
That's the core of their different philosophy. Pi Network states very clearly they want an economy for 8 billion people. That goal clashes directly with the scarcity model that, frankly, benefited exchanges like Mt. Gox and FTX, which dealt in large speculative sums.
So break down their reasons for avoiding burn.
Okay, first, the focus is squarely on wide usage and circulation. If your goal is a currency used daily by billions, a true medium of exchange, MOE, you need a lot of it available. Liquidity is crucial.
The 10 billion Pi supply limit is designed for that.
Exactly. To ensure enough can circulate globally for everyday transactions, burning chunks of that would shrink the potential market, make it more exclusive, benefit fewer people.
Okay, I see the trade-off. Optimizing for widespread use, the MOE function, over maximizing the investment value, the SOV function.
Precisely, which leads to the second point.
Yeah.
They believe real value comes from usage, not artificial scarcity. Pi argues that burning just creates speculative bubbles. Sustainable value, in their view, comes from people actually using the coin, building apps, trading goods, services. That real-world utility provides inherent value, not just an inflated price tag based on scarcity.
Let me push back slightly here, play devil's advocate. If the supply is huge and meant for everyone, isn't it just going to be a very cheap token? What stops early pioneers from just dumping it all when mainnet opens? Where's the incentive to hold?
That's a fair question, and it ties back to the Mt. Gox FTX lessons and their third reason, fair distribution and stable governance. Manipulating supply through burning creates huge incentives for powerful players, centralized entities, to control the market and play with price expectations.
Okay. So avoiding burning is also about reducing the temptation for the kind of manipulation and governance failure we saw elsewhere.
Yes, exactly. By stepping away from the scarcity game, they're trying to remove that incentive for centralized control aimed at short-term profit, the very thing that arguably doomed FTX. They want value built through community growth and use, distributed more fairly, not concentrated by market games.
And you see this philosophy in their future plans too, right? Things like the planned Pi Bank and Bursa Pi, the exchange.
Right. The vision presented is that these aren't just for quick speculative flips. They're intended as platforms for pioneers to use Pi in real life for actual goods and services, linking the digital coin to tangible utility.
It's definitely a challenge to the way most crypto works. Building an economy based on reliability, sustainability, driven by community use.
It's a massive experiment, prioritizing that medium of exchange function over the store of value function that's dominated crypto thinking since Bitcoin really took off.
So, wrapping up, looking back, Mt. Gox taught us about structure and security failures breaking trust.
Yep.
FTX showed us ethics and centralization failures break trust.
And Pi Network's deliberate choice, the no coin burn philosophy, seems like a direct response to those expensive lessons. It's an attempt to sidestep speculative risk by focusing on practical value, fairness, a circulating economy, rather than scarcity for a few.
It really makes you question what a truly decentralized asset should value most. If it's meant for everyone, shouldn't its value come from widespread use, from utility, not just artificial scarcity tactics?
That decentralized ideal almost demands you prioritize circulation and utility over simply maximizing the price point, value built organically.
Which leaves you, our listener, with this final thought to chew on. If artificial scarcity, like coin burning, fuels speculative value and wide circulation, the no-burn idea fuels utility value. Which approach, speculation or practical use, will ultimately define long-term success and sustainability for the next wave of digital assets. Something to think about. Until next time, keep digging.